go back. I'm like, but what does that mean exactly? Things going back to normal. And I said, quite frankly, in the real estate industry, we've seen some positive things. I don't know that necessarily going back to exactly the way things were before is the answer. I think a lot of us have figured out how to work smarter, things like that. So, but his wife is a virologist. And he said basically when they're talking about this vaccine, that eventually it's going to be something that you're going to have to get a shot, like if you do the flu shot, eventually it's going to be kind of treated like that. And not that it'll ever go away, but it'll be managed like the flu, right? And so it'll be kind of reoccurring in that way. So it was an interesting perspective.
Right.
Yeah, that is. And that's a good question. I mean, I don't think things are going to go back to normal. I think that, there's some things that are going to be standard now.
Right. Hi, Michelle. You're on.
Hi.
There you go.
There we go. Get it together. How are you guys?
It's Thursday and it's early.
Yep. So anyway, how's it going? How's everything going?
Good. How about with you?
I've been really busy, but I'm trying to finish what I've been doing all summer and go to Florida. So I'm going to Florida.
Nice.
I have my Florida license down there, so I was gonna try to, but the virus thing is a concern, so I don't really want to do too much. I just kind of want to go down and get my feet wet and figure out what's working down there. My daughter's down there for from November to April every year, and Wellington is the big horse place down there, and there's a lot of real estate rentals and things to do. And I have a place down there, so I was just going to try to see if there's an opportunity to do some real estate down there. So I have all of my stuff closing. I have one more closing that I have to get closed, and then I'm actually heading down there this weekend. But
cool.
Yeah.
I've heard it's very different. It's a very different world. Even so, my sister's fiance's son goes to JMU in Virginia. And, my son is in Hamburg, and he's bored to tears at college, because there's really nothing going on. And, he misses home and stuff. And I keep saying, it's not any different around here. Like,
No.
what you see is what you see. It's the experience everywhere. And he went to visit friends last year at Cortland, and, so he partied. So that's his perception of what college is. And of course, we all know it kind of is what it is, right? So my sister's fiance's kid at JMU, it's like they have frat parties. They shut down the school, but it's like he's got an apartment and he just goes out and does stuff, and it's just a totally different world. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
So.
You know what I like I've appreciated now that I've been down to Florida and stuff. Last year is when I went and got my license, but I didn't really do anything because COVID started, and I just came back up here, and I had lots of business up here, which was fun, and I had a great summer with real estate. It was just with COVID, it makes it less fun. But I appreciate that we use attorneys to close things, so I can bounce things off of attorneys, and that's my comfort zone, like when there's bump clauses, or which I had to do, and other things that I can always call the attorney and get advice. And down there, they only use title companies. So
Yep.
I'm not going to be as comfortable if I get into situations that people are upset and, you're trying to do what's best for your seller. Kind of thing.
Right. Right. I don't know. Matt and Charlene, do you guys know, are there many title states or attorney states? Or I know Pennsylvania is a title state.
I know New Jersey is one as well. I think they have like an average of like 30-day closings, or even less sometimes. Like 30 days is like a long closing for them. I I think attorney states are like less common than title states. I think
Yeah.
most people with just title companies.
Yeah. Like
Which
I know.
is- Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just know like Arizona, Florida, like all of those states are title states.
Yeah.
So I
Which
don't
is
think.
so bizarre, right? Like, I guess we're just so used to an attorney. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
it's a pretty big purchase.
Yeah, and you can get into some really sticky situations. So it's nice to make sure that whatever you're doing, like with, for instance, bump clauses, but I've been doing other stuff that these notices come from the attorney and are sent to the, other party, and they're not coming from you because you want to shield yourself from liability. So it's, for me, I make sure that the attorney's always sending everything. If there's a sticky situation or a special notice or any of
Right.
those things, that I'm not sending it by email or the mail. I make the attorneys do it.
Right, right. Who's this? I know David Brown was on and then off. I'm not sure what happened. See who this person is. Whose iPhone? That might be David again. I'm not sure.
So I have a question for you. How do you resolve like differences in square footage? Like when a realtor lists a property, like one of my buyers just bought a property and the square footage was more than what the public records say. They sold the property to, my buyer got into it was delayed negotiations. He saw it once. He ended up getting in a bidding war. He really wanted the house, so he ended up buying it. And then when he was ordering flooring and that, he's like, Michelle, there's no way that square footage is correct. So then, I went and saw the property record in the town of Pittsford. I went to the town of Pittsford assessor's office and looked at property records and that, and it is different. So, I don't know if you've ever had a situation where there's a problem with square footage that was posted for a property that's inflated versus what actually is going on with the house. I actually measured it myself too, but I don't want my new buyer going after them either. I don't want to make a bigger problem. I just said, this is what's on the public record. This is what, was given to you from the MLS.
Right.
And, if you have a problem with it, that's something for you to discuss with your attorney.
Yeah,
Not
because
me.
you have to go off of what's on the public record, right?
Yeah, you absolutely, whatever's listed in the town for tax record, that's absolutely what you have to go off of. We've had listings where, the sellers swear that, there's more square footage. So before it gets listed, we'll have like a separate, like independent appraisal done on the house to get like actual square footage and see if we can get the town to change it. Or we'll just make a note on the private remarks, just had an appraisal done. This is the true square footage. But as far as like when you're in a contract already and you find out that the square footage is wrong, I mean, at that point, it becomes more of an attorney problem, and I would always just try and defer back to them. I mean, I think you're in the right path with, seeking your attorney's help on kind of what to do in that situation, because, it's the agent's, if the agent just had, what they went off of for tax record, but obviously it's wrong, who knows if they actually knew that or didn't know that, so.
Right.
But I feel like if you get an appraiser to go, and if I was representing the seller and I had an appraiser come measure and it was more than what the public record was, wouldn't you attach that as an attachment as well to justify where you're coming up with that number? Because otherwise it's, I don't know, it seems like if you're going to go to that extent to get an appraiser to measure it and get a different number, you should at least be attaching it as an attachment.
So you put it
Drawing
in-
in the,
Yeah, you can put in the private remarks, but you can't, I don't think you can advertise it in like the public remarks because you have to go off of the tax.
Yeah, and I think you can throw an attachment in there too.
Right. So I don't want to take away from Matt and Charlene. I'm very thankful that they've agreed to join us this morning. for Coffee with a Capper. Thank you both very much for agreeing to get up. Is this early for you guys? Is this normal time? I don't know. It's kind of a mixed. What was that?
I'm usually up around 4 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. Because you have four-legged friends that need attention.
Oh, it's 4 to 9. So like my day starts at 4 a.m. 9 a.m. is like when I start my work day. So like 4 to 9 is like kind of like my time. It's when I work out, meditate, read, all that stuff. So
Nice. Very
I'm an
nice.
early bird.
Nice. Well, like I said, thank you both for joining us. We really appreciate it. Why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about
Oh.
yourself? I'm not sure, how many people on here know you, and irregardless of who's on here, I have heard from many people after the fact that these are watched in the YouTube library. So for those that may not know you, it's always helpful to have an introduction. So go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So do you want me to start? Or
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I've been in the business since 2013. I started at Nothnagel before Howard Hanna bought it. Matt was not in the business. It was just me. I came from like a waitressing background. I had gone to some college, and I was just kind of like looking for something that, I really liked to do. And when I started real estate, I just loved it. My first year, I think I only sold like 10 homes. But I really just loved being around the people and meeting new people all the time. So basically, fast forward a couple years later, my business started picking up. I think it was 2015, right?
Yeah, 2015.
2015, we didn't come to Keller Williams in 2015. Did we?
No, not yet. So what had happened was your business was growing, and I was in kitchen remodeling. So, I would work a standard 9 to 5, and then when I would come home, Charlene would go out on appointments. So I was working like on the back end office stuff. So I'd be doing like all of like her, property research while she was out on showings, or, hey, I'm about to write an offer. Can you start prepping? So I kind of got familiar with like, logging in and stuff like that. And then it got to a point where I actually injured my back at work, and I said, look, I don't want to be doing this the rest of my life. What do you think about me getting into real estate? So it was a really big move for us, but, taking away that stability of the 9 to 5 and, the healthcare and all the benefits and stuff. But, we pulled the trigger and we did it. And, at that point, Nothnagel was switching over to Howard Hanna. So that whole thing kind of happened at the same time. And then it kind of got to the point where, Howard Hanna wasn't really working out. We got approached by Lisa, and then ended up at Mega Camp, and the rest is history. And we're over at Keller Williams and couldn't be happier.
Yeah.
Nice.
I remember going to Mega Camp and like my mind was blown.
Mm-hmm.
Like because I had been in the business like 5 years then, maybe 4 or 5. And I thought I knew like everything by that point. And I remember going to Mega Camp and like, I had anxiety. I was like, there's so much stuff that we don't know that Keller Williams like is doing.
Yeah.
And ever since then, it's like every day you just learn.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of that, what are some key takeaways that you had from Mega Camp? Like what are some of the biggest eye-opening things that made you realize maybe that your current model, your current brokerage, let's call it a model, wasn't working, or maybe you'd outgrown it, and it was time to make a change. So what are some of those things that kind of opened your eyes to that?
So me and Charlene were in different positions because she was with Howard Hanna with Nothnagel for so long. So she was very like into like that company, like she was very tied to that company. So I came in at a time where I wasn't really necessarily tied to their model, the way they were doing things, and I was very open to hearing other conversations and what was going on. So the biggest thing that I noticed right off the bat was Keller Williams agents were really presented themselves in a different way. They weren't just agents, they were all business owners, and they all took their real estate license and their, how they were an agent in the industry, but then they kind of took that a step further and made it like an actual business. They weren't just an agent, they were business owners. This was, they were working under Keller Williams, but it was the Lally team, or it was, the David Brown team, or whoever, they actually made something apart from just the broker that they were under. And I really liked that. There was a lot of individuality.
And I would say for me, it was like just a mindset change. Like at Nothnagel, Howard Hanna, they hold your hand. They really do. They take 30% or more, but they hold your hand. And you have access to an admin. You know, the admins for the whole office, obviously, but it was just going from being almost an employee like situation to being my own business owner.
Yeah.
And learning to do those things myself and realizing that the percentage that I'm losing in commission, I could easily have my own team and make even more money.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the things that I hear a lot about that is very scary for people is lead flow. So having come from a Howard Hanna at Nothnagel to Keller Williams, would you say, like before the move, would you say that you knew where a good majority of your business came from, or was that even eye-opening as well?
So I would say that was really eye-opening. We never tracked anything. I didn't even know how to track or where to get started with that. So coming here, Keller Williams really gave us the tools. They taught us like how to track and why it's important. And then once we were able to track where our leads were coming from, we were able to expand our business because we would focus most of our prospecting in that area.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
where it was kind of like scattered all over. You know, we would do an open house, and you know, I thought that was the best form of lead generating.
Right. Right. So obviously this relationship, you know, between you guys and us was, you know, how many months in the making do you think, or maybe it was even a year? I'm not really sure. What are some of the things that you were, I don't know, just starting to integrate into your business at Howard Hanna before you moved over? Like, I guess in talking to people here that maybe have just made the move, or, you know, what have you, or maybe they have friends that are in the field and they're thinking about, you know, making a move. What are some key points that would be useful, I guess, in order to do so?
So Charlene and I tend to move pretty quickly once we make our mind up. So I think Charlene had met with Lisa, had a lunch, enjoyed the conversation, brought me along. We had lunch together. We got invited to Mega Camp, basically made our decision maybe within like a week or two after Mega Camp. And then we're like signing up with Keller Williams to like move over there like maybe like 3 weeks after Mega Camp. So, I mean, I would say like start to finish, the whole process was maybe like 2 months. So we really didn't have a whole lot of time to like integrate anything that we really learned from Mega Camp. It was just like, this is where we have to be to start like this whole process. And then it was kind of like a fresh start anyway. So it was like, once we kind of moved over, we had a big problem with like porting over our database and all that stuff. So, I mean, I rewrote like business models, and like we kind of just like built our business from the ground up again, you know, without having that structure of Howard Hanna. We kind of just did it on our own and what we thought would be best for our business.
Okay.
So
Okay.
he was ready to go to Keller Williams, like the second day of Mega Camp. Like he was like, let's just do it. Let's just tell them right now that we're going to come over. And I'm fearful of change. I really am. So it was like a week of him convincing me to make the jump. And now that we did, I think if we had made the jump years earlier, we would be way more than where we are now in volume and everything.
100%.
So, Charlene, how many years are you in the business, and how many did you have at Howard Hanna, Nothnagel?
So I started at Howard Hanna or Nothnagel late 2012,
Okay.
early 2013, and we came over. Was it 2016, right?
2016. Yeah.
2016 to Keller Williams.
Okay. Okay. Gosh, it's been 4 years already.
I know.
It doesn't seem like that at all. So did you have any idea when you left Howard Hanna, any idea of where your volume was? Like, what were you doing in sales per year?
Yeah, no. I remember my manager telling me, if you do 2 to 3 million, like that's good. If you do 5 million, that's really good. And like he would just go off of what to do a year. I never heard of doing stuff in units. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
when we came over and Lisa's like, how many units do you sell? I'm like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You,
Help
like,
me out here. What do you mean
Right.
units?
Yeah.
And furthermore, you mean I just can't say I want to do 4 million a year and just have it miraculously happen, right? Like, what is this concept of breaking it down into a number of appointments per week, right? Like, that's crazy talk.
yeah.
Yeah, when Lisa sat with us and she did that and she did, this is how many calls you'll have to do a day. Like, I don't even think I could talk after that. I was like, what? Like, we've been missing so much throughout these years.
Right, right. So, okay, so moving forward, what are some of the biggest changes that you guys have made? Obviously, Matt quit his job and you guys formed a team. What are some things that you've begun to implement in your new career of being a business owner?
So I would say, I was only with Howard Hanna for a year or so, and then kind of as we made the transition into Keller Williams, I'd say the biggest thing is that Charlene and I kind of split, kind of whatever came into my pool, I dealt with, whatever came into her pool, she dealt with. But then we kind of realized that, like, I mean, me personally, I don't really like dealing with listings. Sellers tend to be a little too emotional for me. I really enjoy buyers. I love writing contracts. I love like that competitiveness and trying to win something. I like that aspect of it a lot. So I would say the biggest change is that we've really kind of split our specialties up. So Charlene's our listing specialist. She deals with most of our sellers, unless somebody is absolutely tied to me and really wants me to work with them. And then I deal with most of the buyers that come our way. And then like vice versa, unless somebody absolutely wants to work with her. But, it's nice being a couple and a team like that, because if for some reason I'm sick or I can't leave the house or whatever, she always covers for me too. So it just works out really good, kind of specializing in what you like to do best. And I love dealing with buyers. I know that seems really crazy, but the competitiveness of it really just drives me.
Well, and I will say though that sometimes we do better in listing appointments together.
Mhm.
Even though I'll take over afterwards, having him there, because everyone has so many different personalities and we're very different people. So sometimes he'll click with somebody way more than I will click with them. Or, while I'm talking to one person, he's talking to the other person, and there's just this connection between us. So
Yeah, and you definitely bring to the table like a very like seller listing focused kind of mindset, and I kind of come at it like almost like as if I was like showing myself the house as a buyer. So I'm like, okay, well this is wrong. That's what a buyer's gonna see. You need to change that. Buyers aren't gonna like that. And then it's just like, oh, okay. Like I'm like, well, this is what's gonna sell a house, and like this is what you need to do. So it works out really well that way.
yeah, he's very direct, where I'm like very soft. Like I'll pat your back. Like I'll tell you really in a nice way, like what you should do.
You're the coddler.
I'm the coddler.
Yeah.
And so some people like the coddler, but then you get like people like an engineer mindset. They don't like the coddler at all. Like I annoy them. So they're better than him.
Yeah.
Right. Somebody's a high D, right? Or a higher D, Matt. So in your years at Keller Williams, so let's talk about your first year. What was your baseline? Let's call it a baseline for sales, right? What was your production, and how has that increased or changed over the years?
So our first year, we wanted to do, I think it was like 6 or 7 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
We had the best year ever, like ever in our whole life. We did a little over 10 million, which for us, that's really good, because before he came on, I was like 3 or 4. And then when he came on, I was like 6, 7.
Yeah.
So we did about 3 million over our goal. And I think it was because we really like treated it like a business.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And we made an effort. Like when Lisa laid out the roadmap for us, like we did it. We made those calls every day.
Yeah.
Did you guys do bold by chance?
No.
No. Okay.
Still haven't made it in there. I'm starting to like kind of like look into like all like the different steps of bold and like 6 personal perspectives and kind of like that stuff. But I haven't done the full like bold course yet.
Yep. Well, the first part of it, right, is getting your business running, right? You have to do the things that are important, do the things that are going to make you money, right? So that's your database, and that's generating leads and so on and so forth, making sure you've got good systems. And then from there, now you're at a baseline, let's call it. And from there you just add, right? Until you maybe find yourself at a different level and, maybe it's time to bring on additional help or, whatever the case may be. So, okay. So you did 10 million. Was that your first year or was that last year?
That
But
was
we came over in October of 2016, so
Correct.
that was the following year. So
Right.
that
Okay.
was
right, because we finished out a split between whatever was left over with Howard Hanna, and so so I don't really count like the first 2016 as like being with Keller Williams yet, although we finished out the year with them. But so 17 was our biggest year at 10 million, so that's our first full year, and then
Okay. Okay.
And you guys, I'm piping in real quick just to kind of get back to what you changed from I know you said you ran it like a business, but anything particularly that you did, any systems in place that worked, 2 hours of lead gen, or kind of a little more elaborate on that.
Yeah, so we've really just kind of figured out what where our leads were coming from and where we wanted to focus from that stuff. Other companies kind of like plugged in your head, you got to be on the TV show, you got to be in print, that's where your leads are coming from, this, that, and the other. So once we kind of looked into like where our leads were actually coming from, we found that they were mostly coming from our sphere of influence and our for sale by owners. Charlene and I have like really kind of like got our start in the business. Well, she got her start in the business by calling for sale by owners. We were both really young when we started, so we didn't really have that age bracket of people who were selling houses, and you get most of your leads from having listings and then pulling in buyers. So she got her start by calling like Craigslist, Zillow leads, Realtor leads, all for sale by owner stuff, and converting those over into listings. So that was our bread and butter. So we just kind of kept on trail with that, and then just focusing on our sphere too.
I would say though, like we did get very organized. Like before we came to Keller Williams, we didn't even have a calendar like in our phone. I had the old school pen and paper. And now we have Google Calendar, and every single day is structured. Like if you look in our calendar, it's 9 to 11 is like lead. Well, 9 to 2 is working, but 9 to 11 is lead gen. And that consists of like phone calls and letters and blah, 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 blah. And then from 11 to 12 is like following up with transactions. So like, I know what I'm doing every hour of the day now until 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And do you actually follow that pretty well? Like I put that plan in place, but then my day blows up and my kids need to go to the dentist. Like, are you pretty good at keeping that in place?
We definitely try. So like, I have everything blocked out in my schedule, the 9 to 2 schedule for like actual like in office like work stuff. But if like my day blows up or something kind of falls into place, like I have like another kind of like goal that's like very basic. Like I know on a daily basis I need to make 10 touches to somebody in some way, any shape or form, whether it's a comment on a post, a text message to a past client, a letter, something. If I at least do that, I know I'm in a good spot.
But we won't schedule showings, we won't schedule inspections, we won't schedule any appointments from between 9 and 2. So all of those appointments are after 2 o'clock.
Yeah, we've gotten really strict.
Yeah.
Okay, so fill in the rest of the day. I've got your 9 to 11 is your lead gen, and then you've got your 11 to 12 is transactions, and then you probably take lunch?
Yeah, so
yeah, we'll pull it up right now.
All right, so here's my day in a nutshell. So 9 a.m. is get ready for my day, and obviously I start with new lead generation. So that's anything that's not anyone that I haven't already talked to. So that's for sale by owners, any of those new listings, for
open prospects,
anything that I haven't converted over to like a conversation with them, or they have no idea who I am yet. That's 9 to 10 a.m.
Okay.
10 to 11 a.m. is sphere generation. So that's all the people in our database, people I already know, people I've already talked to, my people. 11 to 12 is transaction follow-up. So I'm just making sure that all my active transactions are moving along quickly. That's all my emails to attorneys, text message to clients who are in transaction. 12 to 1 p.m. is all my administrative stuff. So that's getting all my stuff into command. That's making sure all my paperwork's kind of cleared and all that kind of jazz. anything with like the office that if I need like supplies or all that stuff, I'm kind of organizing all that stuff too. And then 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., since I deal with a lot of my buyers and stuff, I'm using that time to follow up with buyers who are not under contract yet and kind of motivate them. This market's been pretty tough for them. So I just send out a little text message, hey, you know, things are still going good, interest rates are still good. You know, if there's anything out there, if I can help in any way, let me know. So I kind of use that time. And then after 2 p.m., I don't set any other appointment, that's when I start setting other appointments. So that's when I start setting showings, and that's when I set other personal appointments too.
And my
Okay.
a little different, just because I'm focusing more on the listing. So a lot of it's the same, but where he's doing buyers, like I'm following up with people who maybe want to list their house.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Perfect.
And any of the leads I pull in from like a new lead generation for like for sale by owners, if I can set the appointment with them or at least get them a little bit warmed up, I'll try and pass them off to Charlene to get them kind of to the point of like having an appointment with us and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Okay. Any tricks of the trade in dealing with for sale by owners as far as like, I don't know. I mean, you're obviously guys are good at it. That's a hard sell right there because most of the time they're selling it because they don't really value what we do. So any thoughts there?
I think it's definitely showing like a value proposition, like not necessarily like my broker does this, but like I mean, they get bombarded by phone calls from realtors. I know technically we're not supposed to be calling right now, but if you have a buyer, you can call them. So that's the hitch I'm using right now. It's just what sets you apart, what makes you different. And I try and approach it from like I just want to help you sell your house. If it's with me, awesome. If it's not with me, that's fine too. I want to help you sell your house. And then from there, I just try and build a little bit of trust, a little bit of friendship maybe, and just on top of that, stay consistent with them because it's all about being top of mind. When that flip switches in their head and they're like, yeah, it's time to list, you want to be that first name to come up.
My I guess suggestion would be is patience. Like a lot of agents, I think, call them and like when they don't list with them the first day or the first week or even the second week, they give up. They're like, okay, this person's not going to list with me.
Right.
But really,
Right.
like the statistic is like 90% or something of for sale by owners end up listing. Now this year's a little different because like the market's been so crazy that some of them have been able to sell on their own.
Right.
So it's really this
Right.
year it's been showing them why and how you can get them more money
Right.
and why it's risk free to even try that with you for a little bit. But I would say it's mostly patience and it's honestly getting them to like you. Like I go on some for sale by owner appointments and half the time we don't even talk about the house. Like I'll be there for 2 hours and we'll just talk about their kids or their pets or what we have in common. And at the end of the appointment, they're like, you know, you didn't really pressure us. You were a soft sale. Like we appreciate that. And that's why we want to go because a lot of for sale by owners, they got hurt by realtors.
Sure.
So they're anti-realtor. And a lot of times those realtors that hurt them were kind of, I guess, aggressive is what I've noticed. So I've noticed with a lot of for sale by owners being softer really works with them.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
I would have not ever
so you
guessed
guys
that. I would have not ever guessed that.
Yeah.
Now I came in a little late, but did you guys talk about help at all? Do you have admin help or do you use any kind of cyber backers or you guys you do it all?
We do it all for right now.
He's your cyber backer?
Yeah.
So I do, like, I'm a very systems oriented person. Like any other job that I've ever had, I was always trying to like boil down and like distill the processes down to make it as easy as possible for myself. So that's just kind of like the way like my brain works. Like I want to simplify and systematize everything. So that's what I did when we first came over to Keller Williams because I was essentially, you know, with Charlene's help, rebuilding our business and how we were supposed to do things. So that was like kind of creating our schedule and kind of figuring out all that stuff. But it's just, I don't know. Kind of lost my train of thought.
Yeah, no, we don't have an admin though. Like we do all that work ourselves. But he definitely he created our calendar.
Yeah.
Like before he came in the business, I was so unstructured. Like I would wake up at 8 o'clock and be like, oh, I wonder what today has in store for me, and I would just go with it.
Yeah. So I know we have it in our schedule right now for about an hour a day of like admin work. We were on track this year with our $10 million or 10 million year to kind of keep growing and possibly bring on like an admin at some point. We were kind of scaling up to set ourselves up on salary and payroll and kind of get that squared away and kind of lock ourselves in for a payroll. but with everything with C-19 and all that stuff, it kind of set us back a little bit. So we're kind of
Right.
using time to, really kind of set our business up so that if something like this happens, that we'll still be able to stay on track. So that's been a really big lesson, from everything that's happened, is just to set our business up that no matter what kind of gets thrown our way, that we won't get pushed off track again. But we're kind of gearing up again to get ourselves back on payroll, kind of get that squared away. And then I think 2021, maybe we'll be looking at bringing on some admin help. It would definitely help us out a lot. Just in social media posts and getting stuff into command and kind of sending out mailers. That's a lot of time that we spend doing this stuff that we could be prospecting, or, even just nurturing our A-star, sphere and stuff like that.
And one thing,
Yeah,
when we sat down with Jess a couple weeks ago, and she pointed out something really, really good. She was like, okay, so an admin is, X amount a year, right? Let's just, for number's sake, say it's $35,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
She broke that into houses. How many you have to sell to pay that admin, but then she broke it into how much business that admin should be bringing to you.
Right.
So essentially,
Right.
hiring an admin should bring you more business and essentially pay for itself.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but essentially when we make any big purchase, we're always like, how many houses do we have to sell to make this okay? So
right.
we bought a hot tub, we're like, okay, that's only 3 houses. Oh, we're gonna, get this new car, that's a couple houses. Or, let's get ahead on this mortgage payment. All right, how many houses do we have to sell? And it's that's how we factor everything. It's okay, how many houses do I have to sell to make this purchase okay? It's just,
I totally do that. I just got my floors redone, and I'm like, I sold that extra house. I'm getting my floors done.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So that's great. That's great. Oh my gosh. Speaking of expenses, and this is confession time a little bit, but I have a feeling you guys are going to answer it right. Expenses, are you pretty tight with controlling your expenses and doing the red light, green light, from the MREA, or,
I would say definitely. Yeah. I mean, there's things that we won't pay for, and there's things that, we definitely value and will pay for. We don't pay for Zillow leads or any of those things.
Right.
We've red lighted that.
So yeah, we also, I think our first year in, we signed up for, what was it called? Some sort of lead gen program where it was automated mailers and this, that, and the other thing. And, we did it our first year in, and we just didn't see enough return out of it. So we pulled out of it after the first year. I would say, so pre-Keller Williams, we didn't know our finances. We didn't know, we only kept $5,000 in our business account, and that was it. As long as that money was in there, that was enough. Everything else was just back to us.
Right.
But now it's we just constantly feed our business account and let that thing grow so that we can supply, other things. And even just simple things, we've just invested just the minimal amount on Facebook, boosting posts and stuff like that, and we see huge returns out of that. It's the best form of marketing that I think you can do right now, is boosting your posts and your listings, or our social media presence is really, really strong, and I think that brings us in quite a bit of business.
Yeah, well, and before
Really?
Keller, we were always taught advertise in the newspaper or pay for this TV ad, and that's how you're gonna get so much business. So I would throw money at every single listing to put it in the newspaper, be on TV, and it had to add up to thousands of dollars a year. And I've noticed that since tracking it, since coming to KW, I know exactly where I should put my dollars.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, people just don't really read the newspaper anymore. And a lot of people don't have cable TV now. They all are streaming. But everybody's on Facebook. So
yeah.
Right.
The way I thought of it too was that, what's the first thing that most people do when they wake up in the morning? They grab their phone, they open a social media, whether it's Instagram or Facebook. That's the first thing most people are doing, are sitting there and they're scrolling. So I figured, why don't we boost our stuff in there, because it has a better chance of people seeing it. But I've really been focusing a lot on my sphere. So what I try and do every day is just post something. I take a picture of something and I post it. And it doesn't even have to be real estate, orientated. It's just, I think the way that those algorithms work is that the more consistently you're posting things, the more you're seen by your group of friends. So I know that as soon as I start consistently every single day, my interactions with people, the amount of likes or comments and stuff grew quite a bit, and that gave me the opportunity to interact with my people, my friends on those platforms. So I think that helps. that's absolutely zero money. You're just taking a picture, making some nice little comment below it, and then just letting that thing go. And the more times you do that, I think it just gets you in front of people. And that's a lot of what I think real estate is too, is just being top of mind. So even if it's just, oh, hey, I saw your dog and I'm thinking about selling my house, or hey, I saw what you ate last night for dinner and I want to sell my house. It's all about being
Right.
Right. Which actually comes to, I'm always curious about agents and their approach to asking for business or just being present and hoping that it comes. Because I know very, very, very successful agents that do both. So I'm always curious where people fall in that.
So I would say that when it comes to asking for business, we're very well, I'm a very soft approach. He might be a little more aggressive. I assume that I have it. And like when I go to a listing appointment, once we're done, even if they're like, oh, we're interviewing other agents, I ask them, say, so when do you want to get this on the market? Like, when can I send you the paperwork? Right. And if they say like, oh, we still have a couple people to interview, then I'll say, okay, well, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity, and I'll consistently follow up with them. But I don't necessarily say, well, you should list with me right now and don't even interview those people.
right.
Right.
When it comes to buyers, I think he's a little more aggressive.
So I actually just started implementing this in my buyer appointments with people. I've always given a small stack of business cards, just as hey, if you happen to go to open houses, just use these. And I always call them realtor repellent. Give this to the agent who is at the front door. They'll leave you alone. They'll let you walk through
Love that.
So I called my business cards realtor repellent. So I started, I actually made up the smaller ones that just say realtor repellent, and it just has my contact info on the back of it. And it says, these buyers are owned by the Lally team.
Really? I love it.
But
that's so funny.
I also hand them a separate stack of cards. I say, listen, you're going to be buying a house. You're going to be talking about it. It's going to be on your mind consistently until you find one, get under contract, and close on it. You're going to be talking to all your friends and family. And I know inevitably somebody's going to say, hey, I've been thinking about doing it too. I want you to do me a favor. If you appreciate the service that I've been doing for me, please hand them one of these cards and get me their contact information. I'd love to help them out and give them the same service. So I instill that in my very first face-to-face appointment with them, that, hey, I'm going to do a great job for you. And for me doing that, I don't expect anything but you to hand a business card and give me some contact info.
I love it. I have never heard of the realtor repellent card, so I think that is the most fantastic thing ever. Well, how about your friends though? Do you make the hey guys, just checking to see if you know of anybody? I mean, do you do the active to your spheres or no?
Yeah. So I try I love design quirky little funny cards with sayings and stuff like that. So I try and send out a mailer at least once a month to my sphere. So that's everyone I've closed on houses with since I started in real estate, and then my core people, and they usually get some sort of piece of mail from me every year, and it has just a little tagline. Let me know if you think of what is it? Let me know if you're thinking of investing, buying, or selling any real estate, or if you're actually thinking of getting into the industry. I make those 4 statements: investing, buying, selling.
That's great too.
Business.
Or getting into the business.
I usually follow up those calls, so I have a system of that list of people, and then I break it up in 4 weeks, and I make sure I touch those people through the month too, so that piece of mail isn't just a piece of mail that they forget about. It's coming along with a phone call or a text message saying, hey, sent you something, just want to make sure you got it, hope all is well, and I just make sure I make that additional touch on top of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also
okay.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go.
I have a system set up in the computer where it reminds me every quarter who to touch base with, and I'll just, even if they bought a house with 3 years ago, I'll just ask how they're enjoying the house, and then I'll let them know a little fact about the market, see if they know anybody who's looking to buy or sell.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so you do make those lead gen type calls to your sphere, just kind of checking in.
Yeah.
Okay. What CRM system are you guys using? Have you moved over to Command, or are you have anything else that you love?
So we use Command primarily, but before, so we had everything in Howard Hanna's database, and when I think you had already implemented it before I got in, you were set up on a separate one as well, because it just kind of had some things that Howard Hanna didn't have.
Mhm.
So we kind of kept that one as like a backup database that kind of has some other features in there that we like to use. But so it's a mixture of that one and Command, and we like both features. You know, it's been working out really nice.
I love Command though, because I love all the smart plans they have that you can set people up on. I also love how each listing, I use this in my listing presentation, I tell them I'm going to create a custom website for them, because you can like change a URL to the address. And I don't know, I think for the $60 we pay a month, like what we get through Command is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So I'm curious, in this market, you know, I know that you have the schedule and you do appointments and stuff after 2 o'clock. How does that work with buyers, especially with people like, you know, like with there being 50 some offers on a property or whatever? Like, do you ever have you found yourself deviating from that even this year?
Not so much. No, I mean, he works mostly with buyers, but I would say most buyers are usually not even available in the morning. Like usually they're more afternoon, evening people.
There have been a few occasions where I've had to deviate. I've had a couple of people who work like overnights and they absolutely need to get in the morning. So I
Right.
just adjusted my schedule. So if I have to erase something in my schedule, I make sure I replace it somewhere else. So if I have to set a showing at 9 a.m. to 10, I take that appointment and I throw it in, at 2. So it just gets kind of moved where that first slot of showings would be. So I'm making sure that I'm trying to stay up on that stuff. Usually I set the expectation at the initial consultation. I try and like let my people know that, hey, my window for showing you houses is 2 to 7 p.m. That's when I'm most available. Let me know if that works for you. And we have that discussion about what works best for them, what's going to work best for me, so that I can make sure to accommodate them as much as they're accommodating me. I try and set the tone in my appointments with buyers that as much as I'm working with them and helping, they're working with me. So it's like we kind of have to, scratch each other's backs a little bit.
In the
It's
middle.
not, yeah, we got to have some sort of compromise. I can't just be working like a complete dog food the entire time. Like that's not worth it to me. Like I want it to be a mutual kind of respect and relationship.
Right. So how do you handle, let's talk about downtime or vacation. Like, what do you guys do? Do you ever unplug? Do you, especially being a husband and wife team, it's got to be like real estate talk 24/7 almost, right?
Usually.
And he's better at unplugging than I am. Like,
Yeah.
if we're on vacation and it's, past 8 o'clock, he won't answer his phone. Where I'm itching. Like, if he asks me not to text them back or call them, like I start like shaking, like anxiety. I'm like, I gotta know what they need.
Yeah. I just know that I need to with our business and like with everything that goes on in just day to day, like it's just like we're constantly juggling things. So like I need that time where I just put all the balls down and just let them sit on the table and like let my mind relax, because I can't constantly do that. My arms are going to get tired eventually. So, I make sure that if I don't have appointments or I have nothing going on from 2 to 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., then I make appointments for myself. I start working on the house, or I do stuff, for me, or usually my hard cutoff for like anything real estate related is right around like 7 p.m. If I don't have anything going on, I don't have any contracts, I don't have anything that I have to tend to, 7 o'clock is my cutoff. My phone goes on silent. I'm not answering any buyers back. It can wait until tomorrow morning. Nothing critical is going to happen after that point.
And when we're on vacation, in regards to like talking real estate, even sometimes like at dinner, it's really hard because we'll go through the whole day working and then we'll come home and we'll realize like 10 o'clock at night, even in bed, we're sitting there talking about real estate deals. And it's like, hey, you guys, we have to remember that we're married. Like there's other things to talk about than real estate. So it can definitely consume your life. So I think what we do sometimes is like when we go out to dinner, we'll leave our phones in the car and we'll make a rule. Like there's no real estate talk.
Yeah.
You have to do something else.
And we've also we live by our schedules too. So we block out time for each other. That date night appointments we have, I think it's our running schedule that I think Sunday night from 7 to 10 or 7 to 8 or something like that is like just like a date night for us. Like we do like a yoga session together. we have some meditation together, and then we have dinner together, and it's just, we take that time and it's completely unplugged. No phones, no real estate talk, no emails, no nothing. Like, it's just, that's us for like those couple hours, and it helps.
And usually, like,
Yeah.
it's not him, it's me. Like, I'll start, like, I don't even think about it. I'll start talking about like a deal or a client, and he's like,
Yeah.
no real.
Well, and especially, I guess, if you've been good about doing the things that you're supposed to do during the day, like time blocking. So if you've lead gen and if you've followed up on transactions and you've buttoned things up during the day, then I guess really there's nothing that really absolutely needs to be talked about. Do you know what I mean? Past 7 o'clock. So kudos to you guys. That's awesome.
And one thing he implemented that I think is really smart, because we would get overwhelmed sometimes with all the real estate talk. He implemented like a weekly office meeting for us, where if you want to talk about real estate, like, and it's not really important, like that second, you save it and you wait till that meeting, and then we can discuss it.
Yeah, like business ideas, like things that are kind of like rattling around, or, you know, if like I'm curious about what's going on with like her listing transactions or something like that. Like, if it's not important, I just set a Friday, I think it's like Friday at 2, we have we call it our office meeting for just me and her, and we sit down and we just kind of catch each other up on what's going on with each other, and kind of talk about like what the next steps are for like the next month or couple months and stuff like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So where do you
So-
see yourself in 5 years?
Oh boy. So where do I see myself in 5 years? So I think that we'll still be doing real estate.
Yeah.
I would imagine that we'll probably have an admin at that point. I think that we may be even at the point of having a buyer agent, or just maybe not even a buyer agent per se,
Showing.
like a showing specialist, or even just a third person to kind of help us out for like when we do want to take vacation or we do get a little too overloaded, that we can have that person to kind of offload some of those, like, you know, appointments that maybe are a little too time consuming for us, or those buyers that are a little too time consuming, you know, things like that. So I think that's kind of like the 5-year plan. I'm seeking to try and get into like some sort of like coaching opportunity. I want to start kind of training up to get into like MAPS coaching and stuff like that. So that's kind of where I want to be in 5 years.
Yeah,
Nice.
I mean, I would love to be in a position where maybe he could just do that, and then we have a buyer agent, a showing agent, and I'm just doing listings, like only listings.
Nice. Very nice. How about, do you guys, are you guys into rental properties or anything like that?
So we just closed, what was it, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago? We closed on our second house. We got an opportunity to buy a property for my mother-in-law. So we've been in the process of flipping that for her. We're not going to really gather too much income from it. She's just kind of going to be living there, but it's only like, I don't know, what, a half a mile down the road from us. So it'll kind of give us the opportunity to like watch after her and stuff like that. But in the process of flipping that house, we've really got the bug for it. So we're definitely keeping our nose to the ground. And if another opportunity presents itself, I think we'll kind of keep on that track. Rentals to me are too much risk and not enough reward unless you have like giant, like 60-unit buildings and stuff like that. I just don't think there's enough there. There's just too much risk and liability for the landlord. So flipping houses is definitely kind of more where I want to be at.
I would love to be doing the rentals, but he'd be managing it. So that's where he's, you know, he would be taking the brunt of the work. I don't think he wants to do that. But I think if you have like a company that does it for you, it could be different.
Maybe.
It's a good management
Yeah.
company.
Cool.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any other questions? Do you have anything else you want to ask, Mary? Anything you guys want to talk to us about that we've not hit upon?
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
I would like to ask if you have any advice for the new agents coming in. Just anything you wish you'd known at the beginning when you started that maybe could help them along as they kind of watch these, you know, on recording.
Yeah. So my biggest lesson when I got into real estate, well, so I came from a 9-to-5. So my mentality when I left that was I needed to replace that income. So you are your own boss. You can be your own best friend or your own worst enemy in this business. It is all dependent upon you and what your motivations are. So my advice for anyone who wants to get into real estate, is getting into real estate, just starting out, is be dedicated to this. Treat this just like you would anything else. Just because you don't have somebody above you telling you when to clock in and when to clock out, you need to take it upon yourself to start doing that. And really just try and systematize things as much as possible, organize everything as much as possible, because the more organization skills and kind of systems you have in place, the harder it is to kind of like fall off track. When you're trying to like juggle everything and keep everything inside your head and kind of like organize it that way, it usually just doesn't work. It needs to be on something, in paper, in pen, somewhere kind of laid out and planned out, and just take the time to do that. It goes so far to like plan all that stuff out and actually get it out of your head and on paper somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree, because I think my biggest mistake when I started was because I did treat it like a job. Like I had my schedule, but I was so unorganized. Like I had no idea. I didn't keep anything in the computer. All my files were in like envelopes. It would drive him nuts. Papers all over the place. And it stayed that way until I got at KW. And then, you know, that's when I started using like Transaction Desk and all the online stuff that you can do. And now everything's electronic. My life is so much easier, but looking back, I could have had like 3 or 4 years of a much easier time.
Yeah.
Right.
Google Drive
Right.
so much. Like just simple things, simple free things. Like
Mhm.
Google Drive and Google Calendar are huge for our business.
You like Google Drive?
Love it. Love it.
All right, we might have to talk because somebody needs to teach me how to use Google Drive because I hate it so much. But I hear people like you who love it, and I'm just like, why? How? I don't understand. But it is funny, like you find things that work for you, right? And they just kind of change things.
So like I've been like when I do like showings and stuff like that, I'll usually prep all my listings ahead of time. And sometimes I'll print out everything, but sometimes I'll just throw everything in the Google Drive in a PDF, and then I have a tab in there that has all my showings for that day, or and then I have everything on my phone, so I don't have to log in the MLS on the spot. I don't have to do everything that way. It's already in there under a PDF, so there's no like lag time in it and stuff like that either.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Just like the way you choose to use Google Drives, I hadn't thought about that.
Oh yeah,
Awesome.
There's for everything. We use it for all of our personal files, all of our business stuff. Everything is in there, and then it's nice just between the two of us. So like, I do a lot of like mailers and like business cards, and like I do like all like that kind of stuff. So like if I have a PDF or something like that I've created, I can just drop it in there, and she's not like, oh hey, can you email me that file? It's already in her drive shared.
Right. Do you do all your own design work as far as making those mailers and all of that sort of thing?
I found a really nifty little website. I think it's like Island Greeting Cards or something like that, and they have a lot of pre-designed like greeting cards, invitations, and stuff like that, and they're all like really cute and kind of like cheesy and stuff like that. And they're usually like for like random things, but I found a lot of them, and I've taken their templates off of them and just used like their designs, and I've created my own stuff and use that. But it's all free, so we got really thick card stock, and I print everything out myself, and I mail those out. So it's 100%, and they always look awesome and beautiful and really clever.
We should share that website because I love the designs there.
Oh, they're amazing.
And they're for anything. Like if your client has a baby or like a wedding or something.
You can custom make a greeting card or a gift card or an invitation or just something to send them that's hard, and just go to Staples and get some good thick card stock, print it out on that, and it looks beautiful.
Okay, and you said it's Island Designs?
I'd have to find it on my thing, but I will drop a link on like in the comments of like the Facebook post that we put on this or something like that.
Okay, perfect. That would be great. Appreciate it.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Yay. All right. Well, if nobody else has any other questions, we've almost taken up our whole hour. So anybody going once, going twice? All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I'm sorry I popped in late, but oh, wait, Ron's there. Do you have a question, Ron? Good. All right. Well, thank you.
Very welcome.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us.
Awesome.
It was great talking with you guys.
Great talking with you guys. Thanks.
Take care.
Right. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.